And through this revolting graveyard of the universe, the muffled, maddening beating of drums, and thin, monotonous whine of blasphemous flutes from inconceivable, unlighted chambers beyond time, the detestable pounding and piping whereunto dance slowly, awkwardly, and absurdly the gigantic, tenebrous ultimate gods, the blind, voiceless, mindless gargoyles whose soul is Nyarlathotep. H.P. Lovecraft, Nyarlathotep. The crawling chaos, Nyarlathotep. An outer god, and offspring of the blind, idiot god, Azathoth. Nyarlathotep is vastly different from the rest of the outer god pantheon in numerous ways. Many of the great old ones seldom appear on Earth or are active among humans. Nyarlathotep, however, is often among us, in the deceptive form of a joyous man, appearing tall and slim. This human form that he takes is just one of 1,000. The other forms are said to be enough to drive a person to total insanity. Being the spawn of Azathoth, he is his servant, tending to the will of the nuclear chaos and enacting his wishes on Earth, even if they are but his dreams. We also feel the will of the other outer gods through Nyarlathotep, being that he is free to roam on our plane of existence, and they are not. His power is immeasurable, the ability to alter his form at will, changing his appearance to better suit his goal and environment. Invulnerable and with strength we cannot fathom, Nyarlathotep is truly a force to be reckoned with. He is also an outer god that has complete understanding of the human language. Every language, in fact. Able to speak with us, shaping us and changing us. With this in mind, it has been suggested that Nyarlathotep is somewhat omniscient. Another interesting variance between Nyarlathotep and his kin is that although the other outer gods simply are, without morality and a clear goal, Nyarlathotep is purposeful in his actions. He chooses to be deceptive, manipulative, and it is even said that Nyarlathotep enjoys spreading madness, death, destruction, and chaos. With this in mind, despite his incredible power, the ability to destroy us all at will, the Earth included, it is unlikely Nyarlathotep will do this. The enjoyment he seems to get from being among us, toying with us, shaping our history with suggestion and coercion, fulfills him, for the time being. If Nyarlathotep becomes bored, however, he tires of his playthings, or if he simply wants to excite himself with our total destruction, we will be extinguished as if we never were. In Nyarlathotep's first appearance, we see him as a tall, swarthy man, reminiscent of an Egyptian pharaoh, this being how he became known to some as the pharaoh. In this story, Nyarlathotep walks the earth, displaying his otherworldly, outer god powers. Magic, some may consider it. As he does this, he begins gaining followers. The more time spent in his company, and the followers began having no concept of the reality around them. The world is not what it was, and ultimately, these followers become an army of servants for the crawling chaos, Nyarlathotep. As I began releasing my Cthulhu Mythos videos, I received countless comments asking me to cover Nyarlathotep next. He is a favourite among many, it seems, and I can definitely see why. Interestingly, H.P. Lovecraft seemed to favour the outer god as well, being that he appears the most in his stories throughout his works. The inspiration for this creation came around following a nightmare. In this extremely vivid and horrendous dream, a letter came to Lovecraft which read, "Don't fail to see Nyarlathotep if he comes to Providence. He is horrible. Horrible among anything you can imagine, but wonderful. He haunts one for hours afterwards. I am still shuddering at what he showed." To add, Lovecraft has commented stating, "I had never heard the name Nyarlathotep before, but seemed to understand the allusion. Nyarlathotep was a kind of itinerant showman or lecturer who held forth in public halls and aroused widespread fear and discussion with his exhibitions. These exhibitions consisted of two parts. First, a horrible, possibly prophetic cinema reel, and later some extraordinary experiments with scientific and electrical apparatus. As I received the letter, I seemed to recall that Nyarlathotep was already in Providence. I seem to remember that persons had whispered to me in awe of his horrors, and warned me not to go near him. But Loveman's dream letter decided me. As I left the house, I saw throngs of men plodding through the night, all whispering affrightedly, and bound in one direction. I fell in with them, afraid yet eager to see and hear the great, the obscure, the unutterable Nyarlathotep. Nyarlathotep for me is one of the more intriguing and terrifying of the outer god pantheon, being that he seems to gain great enjoyment from our suffering, and it is only this enjoyment that prevents our total annihilation. If Nyarlathotep was to ever tire of this, the fate that would befall us is not worth thinking about.
The crawling chaos, the faceless god, the messenger of the outer gods, Nyarlathotep. I make it no secret that Nyarlathotep is my favorite entity in the Cthulhu mythos, and this is interesting since Nyarlathotep is likely the most unique entity in the mythos, in that he is the most human god, or at least likes to fashion himself that way. While most entities in the mythos, and in cosmic horror in general, are based on alien concepts that are foreign to our human mind, and are thus horrific in that sense, Nyarlathotep is a different beast entirely. H.P. Lovecraft supposedly based Nyarlathotep on a nightmare he had as a child, which he turned into a short story titled Nyarlathotep. In the story, Nyarlathotep is depicted as a man resembling an Egyptian pharaoh who wanders the earth showing off strange magical artifacts, drawing in more and more supporters into a mad haze. It is possible that Lovecraft based this idea on Nikola Tesla. The madness continues until it is implied that the world is coming to an end. Lovecraft goes on to include or mention Nyarlathotep in The Dream Quest of Unknown Kadath, Fungi from Yuggoth, The Dreams in the Witch House, The Haunter in the Dark, and several others, making Nyarlathotep Lovecraft's most used deity. Nyarlathotep would go on to be used by many other writers, including Robert Bloch, Lynn Carter, and August Derleth, providing many different forms for Nyarlathotep. Stephen King used him in The Stand and the Dark Tower series as the character Randall Flagg, and they've even gone so far as to turn Nyarlathotep into an animated teenage girl in a series of manga and anime. Nyarlathotep is said to have 1,000 different forms, most of which are said to be horrific and terrifying. Some of his forms, however, such as the pharaoh form mentioned in the short story, perfectly resemble humans. It is likely, then, that he is capable of assuming any form he wishes, perhaps up to and including other entities in the mythos. Nyarlathotep is also capable of many different supernatural abilities, many of which he uses while in various forms. These abilities include superhuman strength, invulnerability, flight, mental influence, and many forms of magic. Nyarlathotep's greatest strength, however, is in his power to manipulate. Often making bargains or deals with those he deals with, he is conniving, deceptive, and almost never trustworthy. Combined with the ability to take any shape, Nyarlathotep is a force to be reckoned with. What follows is my own thoughts and beliefs about Nyarlathotep. Again, none of this is canon, but it's what I choose to think about the faceless god. Something that is occasionally debated in people interested in the Cthulhu mythos is power level. That is, which entities in the mythos could defeat other ones. This discussion is common in almost every universe or piece of fiction, but it's often hand-waved during discussions of the mythos because A, there's just not enough evidence of ability or power to make a reasonable assumption, and B, the mythos isn't really meant to be dissected in that manner. These are both true and why I don't normally discuss such things, but for Nyarlathotep I have to make an exception. I posit that, as far as capability goes, Nyarlathotep is the strongest being in the Cthulhu mythos. Now, of course, Azathoth can blink us out of existence with just a thought, and Yog-Sothoth knows all and sees all, but Nyarlathotep is potentially the only deity that can actively affect our entire existence, and could easily destroy us if he wished. This brings me to a second point. Why doesn't he destroy us? If he's meant to bring doom and destruction to Earth, what's stopping him? There really isn't a good explanation for this, so here's mine. Nyarlathotep doesn't destroy us for the same reason that the Joker never kills Batman. Nyarlathotep is a creature that delights in madness and manipulation. He could destroy us, but that would leave him with nothing to toy with. There are of course other sentient races in the mythos, but it's likely that none offer up the enjoyment to Nyarlathotep as humans do. It's been suggested that Nyarlathotep is the only one that can bring the other outer gods as well as the Great Old Ones into our mortal realm. I would suggest, then, that he is purposefully not doing so. While we know that Nyarlathotep appeared to the ancient Egyptians in various guises, and was revered as both a pharaoh and as a god, I highly doubt he would have stopped there. A god that can take any form, and who delighted in manipulation and deception, would have likely taken other shapes to continue to manipulate the human species. Who's to say Nyarlathotep wasn't actually Hitler in disguise, or Stalin, or Paul the Apostle, or even that Nyarlathotep is responsible for every major religion we have currently? He could have been Nikola Tesla, or Rasputin, or Ted Cruz. Nyarlathotep is immortal, powerful, and very patient. He is the perfect combination of the Joker and Satan, and we are all simply his toys.